Hey everybody, my name is Mike Grove. I'm the department head for biological sciences. So obviously this session here for accepted students in biological sciences. So we'll spend the time basically as much time as you would like, going over some concepts in terms of how the major looks, and then there's some questions that you have. So there is a question and answer box there that you can type your questions into, and we'll try and get to those. A lot of those will either do here in terms of me or one of the other faculty that will be joining us. We'll give you answers to those. For other ones, we may just be typing the answers into the box as we go. So I just wanted to give you a bit of background. Let me share the screen here. Get this up. Okay, so just kind of give you a very quick overview to the department and to the majors that we offer. Obviously, biological sciences. If you don't get your questions answered today, here's the contact information for the various faculty that will be helping out here. So my name, as I said, I'm Mike Grove, so that's my email. Is very easy, just grove, G-R-O-V-E, @rowan.edu. Dr. Spielman is here, Dr. Greg Eaton as well, so they're going to be answering questions. We'll be taking turns as we go through this, but I just want to kind of give you an overview to things because that may answer some of the questions that you have before you type them in. So the BS in biology, it's laid out here on this particular slide. So it's actually a 4-semester intro sequence. So the first course that students take is going to be an Introduction to Evolution and Scientific Inquiry course. So we think that this lays the groundwork for everything that we do in biology. It's all explained ultimately, we would argue, by evolution as a theory. You would then progress to Introduction to Genetics, Introduction to Cell Biology, and then Introduction to Ecology in your sophomore year. So those 4 courses are kind of, again, the introductory sequence in place of a more traditional Bio 1 and 2 sequence. We think these cover 4 of the really 5 key broad areas of biology, the other being sort of anatomy and physiology, organismal biology, and there are ways of getting that at other places in the curriculum. So I want to make sure that you come out of those first 2 years with a good foundation in the basics. There are 19 hours of biology electives that are required. For the upper level electives, those can be anything that we offer that are, in that upper level category. This is where you can specialize. So we really want to get you the foundation in the first 2 years, and then your junior and senior years where you're going to really kind of specialize in the direction that you want to go. So if you're interested in medicine or the health professions, which I know a lot of you are, this is where you would take courses such as Introduction to Biochemistry, developmental biology, an advanced genetics course, things like that. If you're interested in something more ecological, environmental science in flavor, for the upper level electives, you could take courses such as environmental science, conservation biology, advanced ecology, climate change biology. So there are certainly courses that fit into various career pathways in terms of what would be good preparation. So the junior and senior year is really where you're going to be taking those courses. We, along the way, require that you take some associated science courses, so 2 semesters of inorganic chemistry and 2 semesters of organic chemistry, and we require 2 semesters of physics as well. We're required to take calculus 1, and then finally a biometry, or it's a biostatistics course. Biometry is just the name that we've given it, or the math department has given that, but it's basically a biostatistics course. If you'll notice, those courses are in many ways the same foundational coursework that would be required for admissions into many health professions programs. The vast majority of med schools, pharmacy schools, nursing schools, etc., are going to require that you have intro biology sequence and intro chem sequence, often an organic chemistry sequence and physics, things like that. So by doing the BS in biology, you've really covered the basic sciences that are going to be required for the most part for the admissions requirements for any of the health profession schools. You're also going to take some gen ed type courses. So the university requires that you take 9 credits of communicative literacy. So that's going to be your Comp 1 and Comp 2 courses that you take probably your freshman year, and public speaking. There's a scientific literacy requirement, which is satisfied for the bio major by Chem 1 or Intro to Evolution. Quantitative literacy is satisfied by Calc 1. The humanistic literacy is actually satisfied for bio majors by taking philosophy of science or philosophy of medicine. We really want you to have a philosophy course because we think it's good to kind of step back outside of the discipline and think about it from an outside perspective. What is it that we do in the sciences? How do we answer questions? How do we deal with the nature of truth in issues such as that? And that's really going to be best done, we think, by having a good grounding in the philosophy of science. Then you're also going to be required to take an artistic literacy course and a global literacy course. Both of those are going to be completely elective in terms of which course it is. There's going to be a Rowan seminar requirement. That's going to be for bio majors satisfied by Intro to Evolution, and that's going to really introduce you to Rowan and university life. So many of the things we'll deal with in that first course are not going to be evolution content per se. It's going to be things like, how do I manage my time effectively, right? So when you first come into a university setting, you're coming from a high school setting in which things are very much dictated to you. Here, your time is going to be a lot more flexible, and you're also going to be you have the responsibility for managing that time and being independent in that way. So we really want to work with you in terms of building some skills in terms of how do I navigate university life. And so that's going to happen in that Rowan seminar course as a first pass. Then you're also going to be required to take a writing intensive course. That's satisfied by philosophy of science, so you don't need to worry about that. And then finally, a literature course, broadly based. It's going to be often a course offered by the English department, sometimes by say theater and dance department will offer literature-based courses, but it's again a general education requirement for the university. For those of you that are interested, and for those of you that it's appropriate, we do offer a BA as well in biology. It's going to be very similar in many respects. So I'm going to skip past this slide pretty quickly and go to this slide, which does a comparison between the two. And the differences you'll notice are highlighted in red or blue. So for the BA degree, there is only going to be a requirement of 12 hours of upper level electives versus the 19 hours for the BS degree. So there's less biology involved in the BA degree than in the BS degree. For the BA degree, it is not required that you take organic chemistry 1 and 2. So the courses in red are courses that are required for the BS, but not for the BA. So the BS requires organic chemistry 1 and 2, requires calculus and biometry. For the BA degree, you can substitute statistics 1 in the place of biometry, and statistics 1 does not have a Calc 1 prerequisite, so you're not required to take calculus 1 for the BA. My recommendation, I think the recommendation from the department as a whole, is if you're interested in the sciences as a career, so you're planning on graduating and say going on to a graduate program in the sciences, you are interested in going on to a program in the health profession, so you want to go to med school, dental school, optometry school, etc. Or you want to come out and you just want to get a career in a technical field in the sciences. I want to come out and be a lab technician immediately with a bachelor's degree, which is a great pathway for many students. But in any of those cases, we would recommend that you do the BS degree, right? It's the much more mathematically and scientifically rigorous degree, and you're going to be better prepared for what comes next if you do that. The BA degree is really going to be more appropriate for students that are doing the science in addition to something else. So the BA degree would be a good degree, for instance, if you're interested in doing science education, so you have the intention of being a high school science teacher, then the BA degree is perfectly appropriate. If you want to, say, do science journalism, I want to write about science, I don't want to be a practicing science per se, I just want to write about science, the BA degree would be a great degree to do alongside of, say, a major in journalism, right, or public relations. I want to go to law school and do environmental law or genetic counseling. Again, those sorts of fields would be really ideal probably to do a BA degree in addition to, say, a degree in law and justice or some other major. So the BA is really the appropriate degree when you're doing the science plus something else. If you're really interested in the sciences in any way, shape, or form, whether the sciences in biology proper or the health professions, the BS degree is really going to be the appropriate one to do. There are a number of student organizations that help you with the transition to Rowan and throughout your 4 years at Rowan. This is not a complete listing, but it's certainly a partial listing of some of the bigger clubs and more active clubs. There is a biology club, a pre-health club, pre-allied health. There's the Minority Association of Pre-Medical Students, Midlife, Neuro Club, Wings. Again, incomplete listing, but all these organizations are going to be ways in which you can make contact with other students that have similar interests. Obviously, if you're attending meetings for the pre-health club, it's probably because you're interested in the health professions, and the other students there are potentially as well. Almost all of these clubs are going to, at various times, hold events or bring in speakers that are related to that particular area of biology and the sciences. For instance, the pre-health club will bring in, say, an admissions counselor from Thomas Jefferson University, say, in Philadelphia. Many of our students are interested in, say, attending a physical therapy program, which Jefferson offers. So that pre-health club will bring in an admissions officer from Jefferson or some other medical school, say, and they will talk to our students about what the admissions requirements are for getting into that particular program or other programs in general. But obviously, they will talk to you more specifically about their own programs. We'll bring in other speakers that have careers in the fields that you're interested in. We will use these meetings often, or these clubs will use these meetings as opportunities to hold workshops on how do I write an effective resume? And the department as a whole will do this as well. So that often the faculty will hold these sessions, but these clubs will as well hold sessions on effective resume writing, job interview skills, those sorts of things. So we really want to build up some career skills, and involvement in these clubs is often a way to do that. They're going to provide you with opportunities to do those sorts of things throughout the 4 years. Why come to Rowan? So we are teaching you the classes as faculty, right? All the classes are taught by faculty, both lecture and the lab for the sciences. So you will get to know your instructors, right? You're the faculty in the department directly in class. We do not have a graduate program in the biological sciences right now. That may be an offering within a couple years, a master's program. We are considering developing a master's program, but that is not in place right now. And so we are entirely dedicated to undergraduate education and also undergraduate research. Any of the research that we do in the lab as scientists is going to be done with you as an undergraduate. We don't have a graduate program. We're not teaching and training PhD students and master's students. We're training you as an undergraduate. Those classes are going to be small in size. The lab classes in Science Hall for biology are going to be limited to no more than 26 students. That's the absolute maximum that we can put in a room by fire code. So we're going to get to know you because the class size is going to be very small. You're going to see us for both lecture and lab, and we're going to get to know you, and you're going to get to know us, which can be good or bad, right? It can be very good because we're going to be able to be a very good advocate for you coming out of Rowan when you are applying for med school or a job in some career field, right? We can very often write you a very strong letter of recommendation because we know you very well, having had you in class, potentially for multiple classes. Right? Maybe the bad part of it is you can't hide. When you're not there, we know that you're not there. And there's we're building, I think, a very strong advising and support system at Rowan. Part of this process of advising is the Rowan Success Network. And so we will put what are called flags in, and you will get notification from the advising staff on issues such as low test scores, poor attendance, things like that. So we're going to be able to keep track of you. And in a net, that's positive, right? Because we are really trying to make sure that you are making progress towards graduation in the way that you want to and that we want you to as well. we're really trying to integrate all these subdisciplines in the curriculum as the foundation. As I mentioned before, when I kind of did the broad overview of the major, we're really hitting on all 4 of those core courses because those are really the critical subdisciplines in biology as a whole. So we're really trying to give you the big picture and lay that foundation for everything that comes after, not just for the first job. You mentioned that the Bureau of Labor Statistics says now that the average student coming out in college, you're going to change your job on average 10 times before you retire, right? So we really want to train you in a broadly based skill set that's going to be useful for you in every job that comes after, not just in the first job, right? You may come out and you say, okay, I want to come out and I want to be an X-ray or radiographic technician. Great. Excellent. Do well in that. But you may not keep that job forever. You may decide to change. You may unfortunately sometimes be downsized, right, as the market changes. So we want you to be ready for that. And so a lot of what we're going to try and do is train you in these very basic skills as well as in the content. And those skills are going to be things like communication. Can I communicate effectively to other people about what it is that I'm doing? Do I have quantitative skills? Can I deal with numbers and data, right, in a real way? And that's often going to involve computational resources and things like that. And so we want to give you training in those skills. We want to train you in how to think critically, right? What is the kind of evidence that I use and bring to bear on a scientific question? And that's going to be very different than it is in some other fields. If I'm in the arts or I'm in religion studies, there are standards of evidence and there are ways of asking and answering questions that are not the same as they are in the sciences. And so we want to give you that skill set for how to address those issues. As I said, right, undergraduate participation in faculty research is key here, right? We are involving you in our research laboratories, often from day one. It is not too early to start thinking about research as a freshman, right? I think it's a great opportunity your freshman year to start learning the faculty, learning what our interests are in terms of biology and what kinds of research we're doing, and then potentially even by the end of your freshman year being involved in active research in somebody's lab. That would set you up. You can do 4 years of research then potentially, and you're going to come out with a fantastic experience. We've had undergraduates that have been authors on publications coming out of our labs, and it can be a really great experience, I think. And many times students want to delay, or they simply just don't know better, delay getting involved in research until the senior year. And I would argue that's actually almost in many cases too late. It's very difficult for us to train you in the techniques used in the lab in a way that will allow you to do any sort of meaningful research before graduation comes up. So I would strongly recommend that you start thinking about research very early on in your career. As I said, even as early as the freshman year, that is not too early, to think about research involvement. So the Honors College, this says program here on this slide, but it actually is now officially the Bantavolio Honors College, Rowan. We're expanding the offerings there. We offer several of the intro courses as honors offerings. So Intro to Genetics, Cell Bio, and Ecology are offered as honors versions if you're in part of the Honors College. We're probably going to be moving into offering some of the upper level courses, for instance, courses such as microbiology, where we offer multiple sections each semester. We're thinking about offering some of those in an honors format in the future as well. So here's the faculty. You don't obviously try and memorize this slide. I just really put this up here to give you an overview of the areas in which the faculty are interested. So as you can see, we have large numbers of faculty interested in the genetics, cellular and molecular biology fields, ecology and evolution, organismal biology. So we have faculty that have research interests in all of the areas of biology. And so if you have an interest in biology and biological research, we have somebody that can probably guide you in that research, or in whose lab you can get involved. One of the last things I think I want to say here is making note of some of the off-campus resources that we offer and programs that we have. There are a number of exchange programs that we have formal relationships with, and here are a few of them. So the C semester program, one of these through Woods Hole, Massachusetts. In this program, students, you spend 6 weeks on land, learning in a classroom setting things like maritime law and the principles of navigation using the stars, things like that, marine biology in a sort of more academic way. But then the last 6 weeks of the program, you're out at sea on a sailing vessel, you're learning to sail and put those things into practice. So 12-week program, and all those credits transfer back into the program here very directly. So we've had a number of students that have done it. I have never heard anyone come back and say that was a bad thing to have done. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. Almost every student that's done it has come back and said, that's the greatest thing I've done. It's a fantastic experience. We also have an exchange program, somewhat similar program, an exchange program with the University of San Francisco in Ecuador. And so what happens here is you spend a semester in the Galapagos Islands in large part. You do spend a couple weeks, I think, initially in Quito, Ecuador, when you first arrive on the mainland, but the bulk of the semester is spent on the Galapagos studying marine biology, marine sciences in an island setting. It's a great opportunity if you're interested in Spanish, as a language or as a culture. They try to, in this program, house students with local families. So it's a great opportunity to kind of learn some Spanish if you don't know any, or bone up on your Spanish if you've had some in high school. So that's as well a really fantastic program. And again, all those credits come back in transfer very directly. The New Jersey New Jersey Sea Grant Consortium in Sandy Hook, New Jersey, offers summer courses in areas such as marine sciences, marine biology, geology, things like that. So if you're, especially in North Jersey in the summer, you can take courses directly there on campus in Sandy Hook and get credit for those, Rowan credit directly for those. If you're going to be here more locally in Glassboro or the South Jersey region, probably not ideal for you. It's a couple-hour drive. But if you're in the North Jersey, New York area, you might want to think about doing some of the summer courses that the Sea Grant Consortium offers there in Sandy Hook. So, and then there's an Education Abroad Center at Rowan that's can help you kind of design programs or look at existing programs at tons of other places. We've had students that have gone abroad and studied at universities in, trying to think of some of the ones most recently. I've had students I've talked to, they've gone to Australia, New Zealand. We've had a student recently go to Germany to do work there at a university there. So there's a number of places that we have sent students, and the Study Abroad or Education Abroad Center can really help you there as well. And so we can get you in contact with them if you have interest in that. And again, all of those are going to provide credit towards a Rowan degree. So if you have questions that don't get answered today, which we'll get to here in 1 second, our homepage, super easy, rowan.edu/biology, and that's going to have links to things like the academic programs, research interests for the faculty web pages, student organizations, you name it. The vast bulk of it's going to be there on the homepage. So take a look there if you have not had a chance to yet. So I'm going to close this presentation and get back, and we'll start looking at some of the questions that you have here. So I don't know whether Dr. Spielman or Dr. Eaton, if you've had a chance to be looking at the questions as I've been kind of rambling on. So if there's anything you want to tackle here in terms of answering some questions somebody has asked.
I think I've gotten most of the questions that are in there so far. So if anybody wants to ask some new ones, go for it. Oh, but I'm not sure I can take this one. Mike, do you want to?
Which one is this?
There's question, what is biology 4010? Was that something from your slides? I'm not sure. Nabil, if you could clarify that question further, there may have been a typo on the slides. We do have a question, Dr. Grove, if you want to take this. How competitive is the department in terms of admissions, and then once you're in the department?
Okay. is not really, I think, a question for the department specifically. I think it's more a question of Rowan as a whole. Rowan, we have become more selective in some ways, I think, as a university over time. There are this average student, for instance, high school GPA, the average SAT scores, things like that have increased. It is a competitive process in terms of admissions, but we are also a state university, right? It is our mission to educate the students of in the population of New Jersey, right? And so we are a broad access public university in that sense. We're not as going to be as exclusive as many other universities, right? And once you get in, once you're admitted into the major, I don't want to say that we're competitive at all in some sense, right? And I guess it depends on what you mean by competitive. And so if you want to clarify that, we are interested, I guess, in having everybody that is a biology major succeed. All right, we are a department now that offers degrees. We have upwards of 1,100 majors currently between the BS and the BA degrees. So it's pretty broad access, right? And we have been growing steadily for the last, well, as long as I've been here, which is 19 years, right? Every year we're a little larger and a little larger and a little larger, right? So we are continuing, I think, on that mission of providing education to those students that are seeking it. So if by competitive, right, it's referring to a question of, difficulty. We are trying to offer a rigorous program. I mean, I would not recommend, the sciences for somebody that is not serious about developing mathematical skills or communication skills. I think the joke, and I don't think students sometimes say it as a joke, but students will say to me, I like the sciences, so I want to go into biology because I like science, but I don't want to write and I don't want to do math, right? And I think that's a bad approach. There is a lot of math that we're going to require as courses, so certainly calculus and biometry at a minimum for the BS degree. Writing is there in comp. It's in the upper level courses, right? We are going to expect you, and obviously not expect you from scratch. We're going to help you develop skills in writing and in quantitative thinking, right? The sciences require both of those pieces, right? As a profession, right? No one is going to take you seriously as a professional scientist if you are unable to communicate effectively in writing or in oral form, for that matter, right? They're not going to take you seriously if you're not fluent, right, in terms of data management and quantitative skills, right? These are the things that you're going to have to be a good practicing scientist, right? And so in that sense, it's going to be rigorous, right? And there are going to be high expectations. It's certainly not unachievable, right? We're not trying to intentionally flunk you out. And there are going to be universities, to be honest, I think there are universities that will take the approach often in the freshman year. Let's make our courses as difficult as possible with the goal specifically of flunking out some specific proportion in the population, and we only want the very best of the students remaining after the first year of courses, for instance. That is not where we're at, right? We are interested in getting you, right, a good education, right? And we will help you get there, right? And that's going to be building up skills. It may not be the right major for you ultimately, but we're not going to intentionally try and get you out of the program. And so I guess, competitive can mean different things, and maybe try to touch on all of those there. So anyways, hopefully that helps. If that doesn't answer the question, obviously feel free to post again and we can get back to it. So, what other questions are there?
Stephanie's too quick. She's answering all the questions.
I was gonna say, it's like trying to think if there's anything here we want to expand on or.
Are there any opportunities for scholarships in the biological sciences program? I know the answer is yes, but I don't know the details.
Yeah, there are not really scholarships aimed specifically at our major or department.
There are sort of.
There are, yeah,
You take this.
Yeah. I think what I would say at first pass is, right, many the scholarships that people are going to be applying for are going to be university wide, right? So there are things externally, I guess maybe the way I want to approach this is that there are going to be external scholarships that many people will apply for, and there are going to be internal scholarships, right? Much of the Rowan money is kind of more generally targeted, right, at Rowan students in general, right? So what your financial needs are, right? There are going to be scholarships that are kind of open for any Rowan student to apply for. There are going to be scholarships that are a little more targeted in some cases. And then there are obviously external scholarships in a lot of cases that are often very specific, right? Particular foundations, organizations will have scholarships for students that are intending to pursue careers in very specific fields, such as biology. So Greg or Stephanie, did you want to add something to that? Or?
There's also some work study things that you can do in the department specifically. I know we hire some lab techs for the, but then there's also, I think you can get paid to be a tutor. Now that would generally be your second year, but I think the tutor center pays as well. There's other more biological sciences specific work study opportunities.
Yeah, there are both federal and internal work study pools of money. So the federal work study, for both, there are certain eligibility standards. Federal work study, as the name says, comes from federal funding. Internal money comes, as you might expect, from internal Rowan funds, right, that are specific to the university. As Dr. Eaton was saying, those you can be paid through those for work in a prep lab, say in the department, but also, for instance, doing things like tutoring, working at the rec center. There are a number of jobs on campus that you could have work study money for that would be outside of the department proper, but you would still be a biology major, but say getting internal work study money for working at the rec center or in the library or various places like that. So there are a number of funding sources certainly that can help with the cost of the education. Absolutely.
There's another question here. Are there programs or extracurriculars that high school students can participate in to increase their chances of being accepted into Rowan? I think that's a question that the admissions department may be able to answer a little bit better than me, but maybe you have something to say there?
Yeah, I think again, this is probably not the best question for us to answer in terms of the biology major or department specifically, because the admissions process is really run very centrally through the admissions office. As a department, we actually have very little to do with which students are accepted. Actually, by very little, I mean almost nothing, to be honest. We kind of say, okay, here are the courses that we want to offer students, and these are things that students need to be prepared for, but we ultimately do not make any of the decisions in terms of accepting students. That's done for us by the admissions office. They're making the decisions in terms of how many majors can be supported in each department and what the standards are. We really get a list at some point, it's kind of like, here are the incoming freshmen, and we're working from that. We're really not involved in the admissions process. So I think that's really a better question. Unfortunately, for the admissions office, I might defer you to ask somebody in that office. So the question here about the Honors College, there is actually an admissions process for that as well. So when you come in as a freshman, I think there are some students that are admitted directly into the program. But you can also, once you're admitted and come as a freshman, there is always a chance to gain later admissions into the Honors College. I think as part of that process, it has changed. I think I have not been involved directly on the Honors Board, but I think what happens is that you fill out some information, and there are a couple of essays that they require. There's certainly a GPA requirement in terms of high school or your current college GPA for that. It's I think, a fairly standard admissions process, but again, I think it's something I might defer to somebody from the Honors College. If you want to write me, who is it that was asking this question? I'm not seeing the name here. I'm having trouble scrolling back to this question, sorry. So if you ask the question about the Honors College admissions to that, send me an email. Again, my email is easy, just Grove, Grove, rowan.edu, and I can put you in direct contact with some of the people in the Honors College or on the Honors Board, and they can explain the admissions process for the Honors College directly. They're going to know way more about it than I am. I think, unfortunately, we can help you best with the things that are most specific to our department, obviously. So. The question here, is there anything incoming freshmen should do over the summer to prepare for the fall? I think this is an excellent question. I think my first response is enjoy your summer. That transition from high school to college is not going to be easy, right? So enjoying your summer. I'm not trying to be facetious here, right? Many of you are going to have jobs, summer jobs. This summer is going to be a little weird. We're a lot weird in that sense, obviously, given the state of affairs with the coronavirus that we're in. I think what I might say is the preparation that you want to do is committing yourself to this, right? To hitting the ground running. One of the things that often happens with freshmen is that you're coming in and you're experiencing this condition that I often call freedom, horrible freedom. It's going to be new and different and simultaneously exciting and probably terrifying in certain ways. And part of that process is that you're going to, again, as I mentioned earlier, in high school, things are often, depending on especially your high school, very regimented in terms of, right, I have to be at class at this time and this time and this time, and the instructors are doing this and that and the other thing in terms of kind of keeping track of things. We are keeping track of who you are and where you're at and whether you're attending class and turning things in. But we are not going to be dictators, right? You are going to be responsible ultimately for showing up, right, for class, to be honest. You're going to be responsible for turning your work in on time, right? And I think there's going to be a commitment here, right, that's going to have to be made, and that you're often going to see this new college life as an opportunity to do all sorts of things that you haven't done before. And that can be a really great thing, right? But it can also, and it happens a lot of times in that first semester freshman experience, where you get so involved in these other things, right, these extracurriculars, that the studying and the classwork sometimes can suffer. And that students will often not do as well in that first semester as they do later, because you're not coming in with that, I think, mindset of being kind of dedicated to the work and to the process. So I would really kind of recommend kind of gearing yourself up for hitting the ground running in terms of, I'm going to make the best of this opportunity from day one, right? Because it can be easy to get yourself into trouble that first semester if you're not kind of reasonably kind of prepared for the workload, which is going to be significant, right? I shouldn't joke around about this. It's going to be a lot of work in a lot of these classes, right? You're going to have heavy workloads. There's going to be heavy expectations for studying outside of class. Many of you will continue to have jobs as you take classes, and so you've really got to be, I think, dedicated to this. So that's maybe not the answer that you were looking for, because I don't think academically there's anything that I would say that there's no summer reading assignment, for instance, or anything like that. But I think it's more kind of a mentality that you want to develop of, I'm going to come in and I'm going to really make the best of my experience from the beginning. So if that's how I would answer that question. What else have we got here? Are there any questions that you guys have come across that might warrant some longer explanation?
I think I've got them all.
Stephanie has been answering all of these.
Been on it.
There was early on a couple questions about the pre-med track. I don't know if we expounded on that at all.
Yeah. Do you want to tackle that, or?
Sure. A question that we often get is there a major for pre-meds? And the answer to that simply is no. There is no major for pre-medical studies. There's a couple majors that make sense, but it doesn't really matter what your major is. As long as you have as long as you have the prerequisites that are necessary for medical school, a number of specific science classes and other things, you could be a history major and go to medical school. There are a couple majors at Rowan that feed directly into pre-medical studies. So biological sciences is the most popular. There's also molecular and cellular biosciences. Sure, there's a number of other majors that you can
biochemistry is a very popular one.
Yeah, biochemistry, exactly. So really it's up to you and what your plans are after graduating, and what your interests are, what degree you want to get before going to medical school. If that is your track. We do have, sorry, Mike wants to say something.
No, go ahead, sorry.
We do have 3 advisors that are specifically for anyone at Rowan who's planning to go to medical school after they graduate. So if you want to go to medical school, you're on the pre-med track. You can choose your major, but you want to let them know that you want to go to medical school so that you can get in touch with those advisors.
And I think actually it's a good place to pick that up in terms of, I don't know whether there's a question in there in terms of advising, which may not be something that students think about, but just kind of an explanation of how the advising process works, I think is an important consideration. We as a department, we have 3 what we call embedded professional advisors. And so these are people that are going to help shepherd you through the academics. These are the people that you want to meet with. I would argue every semester that you're at Rowan, including the first semester as a freshman and every semester thereafter, make an appointment with your professional advisor, spend 10 or 15 minutes making sure that you're on track towards graduation. Their job is really to keep track of your academic progress and help you where you run into stumbles with that. They will be up on all the newest courses that are being offered in our department or other related departments. So you really want to take advantage of that. It's a horrible thing that happens on occasion where we'll have a student that will come to spring of their senior year and think they're ready to graduate, and they're not. And we often will talk with those students, and the way they have gotten there is to have not participated in the advising process, right? They've tried to kind of keep track of it entirely on their own, which you can do. Don't get me wrong. It's certainly possible, but there are advisors there whose purpose is to help shepherd you through this. So please take advantage of that, right? Every semester, it'll cost you 15 minutes a semester maybe, and in the long run, it may save you a year of coursework that you didn't know you needed, right, until it was almost too late. So I would strongly recommend that you take advantage of the advising. You will be assigned an advisor as a freshman, and that's really based entirely alphabetically. So A through G, I think it is Lorenzo Matthews will be your advisor. I think the students that are H through maybe N, I want to say, Patricia Deshevsky, and then for students that are what comes after N, O and above, or later in the alphabet, I think are assigned to Christina Davidson Tucci. So you will be assigned an advisor as a freshman. So if you do not have one, let us know. Maybe you didn't get one assigned, but it's more likely that you just don't know where to look to figure out who your advisor is. And so we can help you out with that as well. As Dr. Eaton was saying, there is also a health professions advising team. So Thomas Varela was the health professions advisor, just recently left, unfortunately, to take another job. We're going to be in the process of hiring a replacement for him. But Dr. Deneen Hendrick is the coordinator of the health professions studies. So she is a physician by training. And their job is going to be to help you with that preparation for admissions into health professions programs. So it's kind of a two-tiered approach, right? The professional advisors that are going to help you with the academics for the undergraduate degree, specifically, how do I graduate in 4 years with a biology degree? Whereas the health professions advising staff, they're really going to be helping you with the what kind of classes should I be taking along the way that are going to help prepare me best for admissions into med school or dental school or any of the other health professions schools. So there are going to be two types of advising, and I would recommend you take advantage of both, obviously, as you proceed. So I think one other question that came up here that I know Stephanie answered, but it seems to be a pretty common one. So if people didn't see it, I might just address in terms of that issue of double majoring, because it was kind of related to that question of what major I should do to do pre-med. And the question was, can a science major do a double major with a subject under another department, such as women's studies, was the specific question. But I think in general, the answer is yes, absolutely, right? There's a lot of room still left, even in the BS degree, and even more so in the BA degree. But even the BS degree, there are, 12 hours of free electives and some number 9 hours of non-program electives. I want to say off the top of my head, I'd have to, don't quote me on those numbers, but there's a significant number of hours that are not accounted for in the science courses per se, or other requirements. And so that's where you can take those courses that are in another department and that you could do a double major. And as Dr. Spiel and I know put in her answer, we've had students, one of our best students just won one of the departmental awards, was doing a double major in biology and in music. So there you go. Two things that you wouldn't necessarily put together in an obvious way. Have students double major, in I've had students I know I've talked to that have double majored in biology and in Spanish, or biology and writing arts. You name it, you can double major in it. I mean, and it's often a very interesting way to kind of position yourself for a career. If I want to say do conservation biology as a career, and I'm interested in how do we protect endangered species? Often those species are not, in the U.S. They're often other places, right? So I want to do conservation work in South America, for instance. Well, having a major in Spanish might actually be a good thing, just saying, to put alongside that, because you're probably working in an environment in which Spanish is the first language there. So there are all sorts of situations in which a particular career could really not require, but really be well suited to have a major in some field that sometimes you're not even thinking about. So that's certainly something I think talk with the faculty or your advisors about as you make progress. Just because you come in with only a bio major, it's never too late to declare a minor or a second major, or even change your majors. We would love to have you in biology, but as you make progress through this, if you decide that something else fits you better, do that. Don't stay in this field just because that's where you started. And I think sometimes there's this inertia or some cost that students feel of, well, I started as a biology major, I'm going to finish as a biology major, but I don't really like biology. Well, then don't do biology. Do the Spanish or the art major that you really feel like is calling you. So like I said, we would love to have you and help you make progress towards a biology degree, but if something else is better for you, then we can help you do that as well. So what else have we got here?
I think I just did a typing and I may have responded to the wrong one. But regarding the question, is bio and computer science available to take as a double degree? My answer is above you in the wrong place. Absolutely. You can double major in whatever you want. This is your path. This is your college experience, not mine. I've had it. You should major in what you feel is important to you. I also am just realizing that, so I also sent a link. There is a bioinformatics major, which does combine biology and computer science to a certain degree. It's offered through the molecular and cellular biosciences department. And I'm just realizing that the link to it that I sent does not work. So let me try to track down a better bioinformatics link. Here? Masters.
There's actually, well, Stephanie's looking at that. There is a question here in terms of transfer students. I know some of you, many of our students often are transfer students. I often will, in an incoming class, almost half of our students will be transfer students at various levels of progress, in terms of freshman, sophomore, or even beyond. So I think the question here was asking about how many credits to take as a transfer student. I think I want to answer this maybe a little more generally, right? Dr. Spielman did answer this there, saying that there is a Rowan University requirement to have 120 credits for graduation. If you think about this, if you're coming in as a native freshman, say, right, and then I'll get back to the transfer students here in 1 second, but if you're coming in as a native freshman, right, if you do the math, right, 8 semesters to get 120 credits, on average, you need to have 15 hours every semester, if possible, right? And so there's this 15 to finish kind of initiative, I think, the university is running, because we really want you to be able to get out in 4 years, and it's absolutely possible. But if I only take 12 hours a semester or even less, and I'm only doing part-time, then I'm not going to be able to finish in 4 years, right? For some of you, that is still going to be a necessity, right? And I'm not trying to push everybody into taking 15 hours a semester, right? It may not be appropriate for you in your individual situation, right? You may be working, you have family concerns, you can only take 9 hours a semester. Great, do what you can do, right? I'm not saying this is the right answer for everybody, but if you can, right, taking that 15 hours on average is going to get you a very timely progress towards graduation in the 4 years. And the other thing, too, you might want to think about, right? Rowan charges tuition by the credit hour up to 12 hours. Between 12 and 17 hours, you do not pay any more in tuition, right? So once I'm at 12 hours, right, if I take another class that same semester, you are not paying anything else for it, right? Which is another reason not to limit yourself to 12 hours. You're going to pay more in the long run by limiting yourself to only 12 hours, right? It's essentially, we're giving away classes between 12 and 17 hours, right? Once you get to 18, then it becomes, again, per credit hour charge, I should say, on that. But there is that magic kind of sweet spot there between 12 and 17 hours where you're considered a full-time student, you have the financial aid potentially for being a full-time student, and yet you're not paying any more to take those courses. So certainly, again, work with your advisors to make sure you have a full load each and every semester if that's appropriate. If it's not, again, that's fine. But I think for the vast majority of you, that's going to help you make progress towards graduation in a way that's going to be useful for you. So just want to hit on that. For transfer students are you're going to be all over the place in terms of your needs and what you need to finish. And so again, this is going to sound like a broken record, but talk to your advisors, schedule an advising appointment the first day you get on campus. You won't be able to meet with your advisor the first day on campus, but right, sometime in that first month or so, make sure that you have an appointment with your advisor and talk about registration for the following semester. It's never too early in the semester to be thinking about the future. So work with your advisors very carefully in terms of what you specifically need, because each and every transfer student is going to be a little different based on where you're coming from, what classes you've transferred in. Have you finished the associate's degree? If you finish the associate's of science or associate of arts degree, you are not required to finish the gen ed requirements, for instance. You are by state law considered as having finished gen ed, right? And so there are very few courses there that you would need to take, right? They would only be some very specific things which are known as Rowan experience requirements. So you're not going to have to take, in many cases, any more history or sociology or things like that, unless you want to. You can focus on these other courses in the major and things like that. So make sure you know what your status is as a transfer student. And again, the best way of doing that is talking with your advisors very directly, right, and on a very regular basis. So. We hit on what else have we? Dr. Spielman has been extremely efficient answering the questions here in the chat, but I was wondering if anything is worth kind of highlighting for everybody. Well, this question about, yeah, here's, I think, a good question about how do you join the biology club or pre-health club or other clubs like that. Dr. Spielman's answer, I think, is a very good one. Simply show up for the meetings. These are all open, right? There's no admissions requirements. There's no hazing that's going to go on, right? There's no, nothing along those.
You might have to hold a snake if you join the biology club, though. So depending where that falls for you, it could be hazing.
Right. Yeah, but these are the things, these are the sorts of things where it's like you can absolutely, again, from day one, your freshman year, start taking advantage of. Will we be in person on campus in the fall? Which is probably something we should say something about here in 1 second. We don't know yet. The state has yet to decide. Ultimately, the university's decision on that will be based on the state level decision, what the governor's decision is in terms of higher education or the secondary schools. But let's, for the sake of argument, let's pretend we're back on campus in the fall. It is not too early to start attending meetings of these clubs the first day that they meet, right, your freshman year. That's the way you get involved. You can become a club officer by the time you graduate. That's going to be often a great thing to have on your resume to show active involvement in these extracurriculars. It's not just that I've showed up to class and gotten straight A's. Lots of people can do that if you put enough work into it, if that's all you do. But being successful in terms of grades while simultaneously doing these other things, such as being an active participant in biology club and doing research and all these things simultaneously, that's going to be part of this process of showing that you're capable of doing good work. And it's showing that you can manage time effectively. It's showing that you have a dedication to these tasks. So I think, again, thinking about how you can get involved from day one is key here, though. Just making sure that you take advantage of the opportunities that are there. There are always going to be things out there that you don't know about. Colleges, I think, the more even I work at one, the more amazed I am at the resources that are available, that even 20 years after I started working here, I'm still kind of myself finding out, oh, we have that club on campus. One of the best ways of looking at that for clubs, for instance, there is a ProfLink site that we can send you the link to, which lists all the clubs and has links to what their kind of I don't want to say goals, but what their kind of interests are, I guess maybe is the better way of saying it. So we're going to have, so Dr. Eden, for instance, you have what's the club? Love Your Melon, right? Club?
Yeah, Love Your Melon at Rowan University. It's a pediatric cancer. That's the focus is on pediatric cancer, but it's a clothing brand. They make beanies, and the goal is to get a beanie on the head of everyone with pediatric cancer. So you can buy beanies to support them, and then they donate beanies to pediatric cancer patients.
Yeah. So there's an example of one that, again, I would have never known of if I didn't have this contact in Dr. Eden, right, that exists. So there are lots of things out there for you to get involved in.
And also,
sorry, go ahead.
So, at the beginning of the semester, we usually do a big, everyone come attend event in the main hallway of our building for the biology club, where all the faculty who are free during the time that it's scheduled can come introduce themselves, explain what classes we teach, what our research interests are if we do research in our positions, and then lots and lots of students are there. And it's a nice meet and greet. So when you're first, getting started and first coming onto campus, it's a lot less overwhelming that way. There's a big meeting, everybody's there. It's, nobody's looking at you specifically. There's a lot of freshmen, very well attended. So there's a way to kind of get in the door without having to, feel nervous about, if I go to this meeting and nobody knows me and I'm all alone. No, everybody's there. It's an open event.
There is a question here, actually, and I kind of started touching on this when we were answering this last question, but Abida had a question she just posted, and I think this is the big one that has probably in everybody's mind. How are classes being taught right now, considering the current circumstances? The answer is, right now, as of this particular minute, right, everything that Rowan is doing is being offered online. So all of the summer courses are going to be online, right, for their full term. If you're taking a summer class here, it is being conducted remotely or virtually, right? There are no in-person summer classes being offered this summer. For the fall, I think is probably where the question is really getting at, right? And if you're coming as a freshman, I'm sure this is not an easy thing to be thinking about, right? But I have to be honest, the answer is right now, we don't know exactly for sure how this is going to play out, right? I think there are a number of ways it could play out. One of those is that the state decides that it is still too risky to have people on campus in classes of any significant size, or in dorms, interacting too much, and they say everything still needs to be remote. It is a distinct possibility that the classes that Rowan or any of the other state schools, Rutgers, Montclair State, you name it, we will almost certainly all be in the same situation, right? The state may simply say to us, you cannot offer classes in person, right? We are preparing for that eventuality, right? Everything that we are doing is preparing for anything to happen, right? We understand fully that it can go a number of any ways, right? It can go entirely remote, right? There is the possibility that we'll be back in person, right? And that we'll be able to have full size classes and everything will be great and this, virus disappears and it's business as usual. It seems unlikely. So, I can't promise that because that's not the way these diseases, right? And the progression of these diseases usually works. But, if it happens, great. We would love to see you on campus. There is the possibility that we will be offering sorry, I'm having trouble talking today for some reason, offering classes in a reduced capacity format, right? And so the students that want to be on campus and can be on campus are able to still be here, but that we offer classes that are reduced in size from what we would normally, right? So for instance, in biology, right, the vast majority of our classes are going to be 24 to 26 students, right? Because that's the way our rooms are designed. And that's both lecture again and lab, right? So you're going to have the same instructor for lecture and for lab, same room, 24 is 26 students, right? It may be the case where the state comes to us and says, you can only have half that number in a particular classroom because you have to maintain these 6-foot social distancing guidelines that everybody's gotten used to. And we don't yet have a real handle on how many people then we can have in a classroom, but say for the sake of argument, it's 12, right, instead of the usual 24. What we may have to do is say, okay, half of you can be in class, at the regularly scheduled time on Monday at 11 a.m. and the other half of the class will show up on Wednesday at 11 a.m. And for those 12 of you that are not in class on a particular day, we have other assignments. You have a narrated PowerPoint, or we are simulcasting, right, or streaming the class lecture as it goes on for the one that you're not at, and we record that. And we have outside assignments for you to do, and that we're kind of swapping students in and out as we go over the course of the week, so that everybody has a chance if they want to be in class physically, right? We have, I think, gotten already a lot of experience at doing these things remotely. The spring semester, as you might imagine, it was right around spring break when this really kind of became of concern. As we went on break, the university said to all the faculty across all the various departments, get ready to teach your classes remotely if necessary after spring break. We're going to delay opening school back up for a week, and they made the decision in that 2-week period that we were not coming back at all. So everything in the spring semester finished remotely. There were no in-person classes at the end of the spring semester. So everybody that was teaching in the spring semester got some kind of on-the-job training in teaching remotely. I don't know that I could say that it was the greatest job in the world, not to denigrate the efforts that everybody made, because I think everybody, both faculty and students and staff, put a lot of work into making that happen. But as you might expect, doing that over 2 weeks is not ideal, right? People were kind of having to do things pretty quickly, right, in ways that they were not previously prepared for. We will be much better prepared for the fall, no matter how it looks. If it, again, is entirely in person, great, it's business as usual. We know how to do that. But if it's remote, or if it's half remote and half live, we have now gotten some experience in doing that. And I think the experience that you're going to get as a result as a student is going to be significantly different than what was happening for students in the spring. People are going to be much better prepared for that. And so it's not, look, nobody's going to be happy about it. It's not what anybody wants or desires. You wanted to come to college, I'm sure, in the vast majority of the cases, because you want to interact with other students, with faculty, with the staff, have those in-person experiences in terms of going to class and going to football games and being able to use the rec center and hanging out on Friday night with your friends in the dorm. And we would love for you to have that experience this fall semester, but it may or may not happen. We just do not know yet. The thought is that the state will be making those decisions hopefully sometime in early June. That's not a hard, fast deadline, but that's kind of what we've been hearing, or I've been hearing at least. So we may have a better handle on this by the middle of June, say, in terms of what classes are going to look like. But even that is not a promise. These things can still be, developing. And again, even if we start in person, say in the fall, there's nothing that says that we don't get a second wave of this pandemic sweeping through, and we're right back to remote in the middle of the semester again. So everybody's going to be ready for everything, and that's unfortunately the best we're going to be able to offer you, which not ideal, not what anybody wants, but that's the world we're living in right now. So sorry. That's not where we want to be either as teachers. We would really love to be in the classroom with you in the fall, but we'll see what happens. So what else? Anything else that we want to hit on? Everybody's still there. I think almost everybody that joined us at the beginning is still there. So I'm assuming that if you're still here, you're still interested in what we have to say. So we'll keep talking if you still want to keep listening. But are there questions that are kind of general interest here that we want to hit on again? I think this is actually something that's worth talking about. So Nabil asked this question here. Can you elaborate a little bit about Cooper Medical School of Rowan University? And I might just kind of throw the School of Osteopathic Medicine in there as well, which Dr. Eaton did. So in the question and answers, Dr. Eaton already kind of addressed this, but I think this is something that's probably of interest to a lot of the students. So I'll just kind of say it more broadly to everybody in case you're listening to me and not looking like Q&A for questions and answers. Rowan does have, in fact, we have two medical schools that are affiliated as part of the system, right? So there is the Cooper Medical School of Rowan University, which is in Camden, and that's a more traditional allopathic medical school. Then there is the School of Osteopathic Medicine in Stratford, New Jersey, which used to be part of the University of Medicine and Dentistry, became part of Rowan now 4 years ago, is it, I think? My timeline may be a bit off, but within the last 5 years, right, we've been given not one but two different medical schools. And so they're slightly different in flavor, of course. An allopathic versus an osteopathic approach is something probably we don't really have time to get into here, and not something, to be honest, I'm probably the best person to answer. So I'll kind of leave that for another day. But both are providing 4-year medical degrees, right, in a pretty traditional way, MD versus DO. I think the key in this is, right, both institutions hold a small number of seats for Rowan undergraduates coming out of the Glassboro campus, right? They want part of their class to be made up of Rowan University students, right, that had a Rowan University undergraduate experience. That is not a large number of seats. Right, that may be 5, 10 seats. I forget exactly the numbers in each case, right? But that's in an incoming class of, for Cooper now, I think the incoming class is up to 100, right? So you should not come to Rowan University and be part of the biology major, or any other major for that matter, with the express belief that that is a guarantee that it gets you into one of those medical schools, because it doesn't. Even if you are otherwise eligible, right? Even if you are a very good student with good grades and you have extracurriculars to show and great essays, right? They do not want an incoming class entirely composed of our own undergraduates. And I think if you think about this carefully, it makes sense, right? That, right, in the same way that in our university, at an undergraduate level wants a diverse student body, right? These medical schools want a diverse student body, right? They want and are going to be educating students that are coming from other places in New Jersey, that are coming from California or other places in the US, that are coming from abroad, and that their express goal is to train medical students, not just for the state, but for the world as a whole. And so I think there can be this perception that because Rowan has medical schools affiliated with it, that an undergrad degree from Rowan is a guaranteed entrance into one of these medical schools, and it's not. And so I don't want you to come here thinking that and being disappointed when that doesn't happen, right? It can be a leg up because, again, there are a few seats that are reserved for our undergrads, but that's not enough to account for the whole class that we're graduating that have interest in the medical profession. So we're not going to transfer all of you, right, as Rowan biology majors graduating your senior year into Rowan medical students at the two medical schools. It's not the way the programs are set up. So I really want to be totally honest with you that you should not have that expectation that just because you're a Rowan undergrad means that you're going to be a Rowan med student. And in fact, you may not want to be, right? It's often, in your best interest to go out of state and go to another medical school. So anyways, I did want to hit on that specific piece of it. And I think Dr. Eaton did as well. So if you read over the Q&A, the answers there to those questions, he said, I think, probably very much the same thing I did, right? So scrolling through the questions here. Sorry to. Did you see anything else, Dr. Eden, that we should hit on?
I don't see any new ones. Yeah. I think we answered most of them. I don't know. I joined a few minutes late with some technical issues, so I don't know if you guys introduced yourselves. I know we're at the ends, but if you don't mind, I'll introduce myself to everyone that's still here. Yep. I'm Dr. Eaton, and I have a little bit of a different point of view in that I was a Rowan. I'm a Rowan alumnus, so I did my undergrad at Rowan. Then I went on to Jefferson and got my PhD in cell and developmental biology, and now I'm back teaching cell biology and other classes at Rowan University. So if anyone has any questions about being a student at Rowan, feel free to ask them as well, because I do have. I mean, it's been a while, but I have some memories of being a student at Rowan as well, and I actually have some memories of being a freshly minted student at Rowan. So I know some of the fears that you may have, and I remember them a little bit.
And actually, I think kind of segueing off of that maybe a bit is we really want to develop a relationship with you as a student so that you feel that when you leave Glassboro, that you are still part of the Rowan community, right? And a Rowan family. I mean, it sounds trite sometimes, I think, when organizations talk about developing a family culture, but we are invested in you well beyond your 4 years here. We want you to succeed, and often that success means that there are things that we can help you with once you graduate and well beyond graduation, right? There are lots of times where students will come back, I know to me, and I know for other faculty that will come back asking for letters of recommendation, in some cases literally 10 years after they've graduated, right, or even more, right? And I still have often the letter on file from them, and I remember, right, that one of the real advantages of having these small class sizes is we get to know you and we remember you, right? We know who you are, right? And that extends beyond. So we can, write a letter of recommendation for you, right? Well past graduation. We can have a conversation with you about careers. And I've done this again, right, with students that have graduated, right, that have come back to me and I've had in class, and they come back and say, I'm just not sure where I'm going on this career path. can we have a conversation about, what else is out there? How do I kind of retrain myself? Am I making the right decisions? And I will spend a lot of time sometimes with these students, or former students, maybe is a better way of saying it, alumni, right? And have those conversations well beyond when they're here, during the traditional 4 years, right? We are invested in your success, right? Forever, right? We are here for you on a permanent basis, or at least until we retire. And then you may have to track us down someplace else in Florida or wherever we retire to. But my intention, as long as I am here working, is that I am going to be a resource for you as a student. And that doesn't mean only when you're here physically in Glasper or enrolled as an undergraduate. It means you as part of the Rowan community well beyond graduation. This is not none of this is something that happens in a finite and defined time frame, right? You should not approach education in I am going to go to college for 4 years and learn something, and then when I walk out the door with a diploma in hand, I am done learning, right? If you take that approach, I think we have actually failed you. If we have done our job, we are going to hopefully instill in you a mindset that you are going to be lifelong learners, that you're going to continue to learn things well beyond walking out the doors here at graduation, right? And that we have given you the skills then necessary to figure out how to learn those things on your own, or to find the resources that you need to help you learn those things. And it's not, again, a question of relationships here either. We don't want a relationship in which at the end of 4 years, when you graduate, we shake your hand and send you out the door and say, bye, don't ever call us again, right? It's exactly the opposite. We really want you to succeed, and we're really going to try and do that, help you do that as best as possible. And that can involve, again, conversations and interactions well beyond your time here. So Dr. Eaton being a shining example of that. He apparently loved the place so much that he decided to come back and work here, right? 10 years later or so. Or not quite 10, actually, but close, right?
I think more than at this point.
Oh, is it? Well, you graduated in 2008, right? So you started, yeah. Anyways, time doesn't matter. You get the idea.
I was just going to say, I actually have a screaming child in the other room, so I think I will bow out.
Okay.
Thanks. And as Dr. Grove said, our emails are easy to find on the website. Please, if you have additional questions, feel free to email, or just want help with something, please reach out.
Yep, absolutely.
See you guys.
Yep. Thanks, Dr. Eaton. So I think there are people kind of slowly kind of making their way off. I think we were kind of losing a few people in terms of attendees here as we go. So we might go ahead and wrap this up, I guess. I think Dr. Spielman and Dr. Eaton have been good about answering all the questions in the Q&A box directly. We've tried to hit on some of the ones I thought that would be of greater, broader interest to everybody again. But as Dr. Eaton said, if you have questions that you still don't feel comfortable with the answers to, email one of us. My email, again, super easy, grove@rowan.edu. Send me an email. If you want to have a one-on-one talk, I'm happy to do that. I do that all the time with students. It's not the same experience, obviously, as if we were on campus. You can't come see me in person, but I'm happy to do a Zoom one-on-one with you if you have something specific that you really feel like is an in-depth conversation that you want to have about careers or the utility of the program to where you feel or want to be, taking your your future self. So I'm happy to talk in a lot more detail later, and I'm sure everybody else is as well. And there obviously are faculty in the department that are not here on this chat. This is only the 3 of us today, but we have 12 full-time faculty, by line, actually even more than that. All of them.
Counted the other, I think there's 19 I counted.
Well, yeah, it depends on how you count.
Experts,
Yeah. And even the adjunct faculty are always happy to talk with students. So I probably shouldn't give an exact number. There are lots of people in the department who would be happy to talk with you about various issues, either on specific classes or majors or career paths or any of that. So please feel free to contact us even after we sign off. So was there anything you want to say, Dr. Spielman, before we kind of wrap this up? Or
I'll say a couple things. So the main thing that's on my mind these days, and probably is on everybody's mind, so we'll just bring it up one more time, is what's going to happen next academic year. The one thing to be aware of is that whatever happens with Rowan next academic year, whether we're in person in the fall, remote in fall, some combination of the two in the fall, that's not going to be something that is unique to Rowan. That is going to be something that all of the New Jersey schools, all the public schools in New Jersey will follow these directives from the state, and you can probably expect that most colleges within the region, in Delaware, New York, and Pennsylvania and such, will be doing similar things as well. So yes, we are all waiting to hear what exactly is going to happen in the fall. Rest assured, we are planning for a variety of possibilities so that we can be ready for you guys. But if we are remote, that does not mean that we are uniquely remote. Everyone's going to be in the same boat for the foreseeable future. So there's not going to be a particular hit or something. If it's not as though Rowan's going to be remote and everywhere else in the country is in person. We're remote. Probably most everywhere is remote.
Actually, somebody just asked me if I was a professor. I just realized I didn't probably totally introduce myself at the beginning. I should have done, so I apologize. Kind of launched into it maybe a little too quickly. So somebody asked with her, I'm a professor. So we all are. Dr. Eden, Dr. Spielman are faculty in the department. Right now, my current job is I'm department head for the department. So I'm doing all the administrative work for the department. But in the fall, I'm going to be back in the classroom. I have not been in the classroom since fall 2017, unfortunately, and I'm really missing it. So come this fall, whether it's in person or remotely, I'm right back there in the classroom with you. So yeah, and by training, I am a marine biologist, so my research is in...
Somebody asked about marine biology up there. I said that we have marine biology classes and research, but that was so silly of me to not just say it's you.
Yeah, sounds like
here.
Yeah, so we offer, but I think it's like without looking at the question, the short answer to probably a question like that is we offer courses in almost every area of biology, right? So it's no matter what your interests are, we can help design a major that kind of fits your interests and needs. So it's a function of where you want to go and letting us know that, and we can help work with you kind of one-on-one, either the professional advisors or one of the faculty, especially in terms of which specific classes are going to be best. So yeah, we can get you where you want to go in terms of the coursework. Anyways, I know this was, I think we were technically scheduled for something like 45 minutes, and yet we've gone an hour and a half again. So we tend to like to talk as faculty. We always like to hear ourselves kind of give great answers to questions, hopefully. Anyways, just wanted to say thank you all for attending. Hopefully we've answered your questions, but again, this is not the end of the conversation. This is the start of a conversation. Your college career is not the end of something, it's the start of something in terms of a career. And so we can treat this chat as exactly the same thing, right? We're just trying to get the conversation going and the ball rolling, but there's lots more conversation to be had in the future whenever you have a chance and have questions. So I hope you're all staying safe, that your families are healthy, and everybody is doing well. It's a strange time for everybody, culturally, socially, and especially educationally. So like we've said here, we're not sure what's going to happen in the fall yet, but I can promise you, no matter what it is, we're going to make the very best of it that we can. We are here to help you. It's a very dedicated department and university as a whole. I am constantly amazed at the dedication that the faculty and staff and administration at the university have towards student welfare. We're going to help you out. And it may be weird and remote and not what anybody wants, but we're going to make something useful and valuable of it for you. And the decision that you have to come here, we will love to see you either in person or remotely in the fall. So in the meantime, thanks again for everybody, and stay safe and healthy. Okay.
Stay
thanks.
safe.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.